All right, so John, first, if you just want to kind of tell me about your excitement of seeing your son drafted into the NFL this past weekend.
No, it was one of those, like anything else, anybody else getting drafted, opportunity of a lifetime, and being around him, for being a young kid, even through high school, volunteer coach and over at St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia, being around all that and watching that team, and actually two of his teammates actually got drafted on over the weekend
Right.
too. So it was a great experience, and exciting and emotional all at the same time.
What has your advice for him been?
Well, my biggest thing, and it goes, the anticipation to, getting picked up on Saturday, that was just the first hurdle. And it goes, now this is the next step. Now you got to go prove yourself. You got to prove you can be on the roster, and then you got to prove you can be out there on Sundays and play. So there's still a lot ahead of them. Kind of drawing from my experience, it typically does take you a year to 2 years to really get ingrained into a system, to get the coaching staff comfortable with you, the scouts all comfortable with you, to prove you can be trusted to be out there day to day.
I know you guys probably would have been happy no matter where he went, but to go to a franchise like Green Bay that has had stability over the years, do you think that that's a good landing spot for him to start in?
Yeah, and obviously, myself being a Midwest guy, growing up in Flint, Michigan, have a soft spot for all the good Midwest people out there. So, it's awesome. And then, like you just said, to be in Titletown, it's really something special. Something obviously I've never had the opportunity to be. I've played there against the greats, Reggie White included. So it's one of those great opportunities, and I think it's a really good fit for it.
When we talked to him the other day, he mentioned that he was at the 4th and 26 game, which obviously I'm sure you remember pretty well. What do you remember about that game back in, what was that, 2003?
Yeah, it was just one of those games where it was a last ditch effort to try to convert that. Otherwise, that game was over. It was that whole run here in Philadelphia. That whole decade.
Mm-hmm.
That was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Unfortunately, we didn't get to close the deal. On any of those seasons, but that type of run as an old retired guy now, you look back on it, and that type of stuff would be really hard to duplicate in the future.
With John growing up, watching you play, and obviously getting advice from you throughout his career, what do you think he's learned from you and taken from watching you for all those years?
One of the biggest things, is just keeping a level head, knowing there's only certain things you can control. And number one of them is, yourself. You can't control the guy next to you. You can't control, what the defense is doing. Take care of your own business. I mean, the goal is to try to be perfect. None of us are, but, to keep striving for that, and then hope that bleeds into your teammates and everyone else around you, that they try to do the same thing day in and day out.
You're kind of remembered as like a rough and tough kind of player. I don't want to use the dirty description, but like that's kind of the reputation that you left behind at least. Do you think he's picked up some of that as well?
I mean, yeah, some of it, and that's really something, I learned back in my high school, going to camps at the University of Michigan. That was the Bo Schembechler way. That's how Michigan football was played. It's still around, it's not as prevalent in football as in general anymore, but there's a certain pride to that and a certain toughness that, attending that university, and, it's the moniker of most people from the Big West, the Midwest also, is that tough nose, kind of not going to back down, gonna sit here and run the ball and beat you up a little bit. That's what being from that area is all about.
I know he finished his career at Michigan as a tackle, and it sounds like the Packers want to move him inside to guard. From your experience as an offensive lineman, what are the challenges to, switching positions, bouncing from outside to inside? What are the challenges to changing that, and the differences between those two positions?
The techniques are just a repetition thing, which you'll obviously get. I think the transition from tackle to guard, I think most guys that play the game will tell you it's probably easier because now you're dancing with a guy in a phone booth instead of dancing with a guy on the dance floor, and it's a little easier to put your hands on him and get in his way. And it's really, when you go back outside, it's just a comfort level of knowing you can accomplish your job in space and not being afraid of it. Because, like anything else on the football field, if you're thinking, you're slow, and when you're slow, you're beat.
Overall, what kind of football player do you think Green Bay's getting in Jon?
I think you got, a versatile guy. I tell people all the time, he's a better athlete than I was. Maybe not long as I was, but the athleticism makes up for the lack in length. And the lack of length is maybe an inch, maybe an inch and a half. So that athleticism will do him well. And it's just one of those things, like anything else. Moving inside, outside, switching sides. You got to make sure the mental stuff is there. You're not flipping your odd and even numbers in an offense and taking the wrong footwork, going the wrong way, that type of stuff. It's really simple, and it's just really an attention to the detail and attention to the focus it takes as you move around.
All right, well, that's kind of all I wanted to touch on, unless there's anything else you'd like to add about Jon before we go.
No, I mean, I think pretty much everybody, knows what they got with him. He's kind of like me, a quiet guy that's just going to show up and do the work and, try his best. And he's going to give you the same thing every day in and day out. And I think a lot of times that consistency of that effort and, the studying that goes along with it is a lot what coaches look for. And I think you guys did a good job in picking out one of those guys.
Cool. All right. Well, hopefully we can get him up to Green Bay soon and see him in action.
We'll see.
Yeah,
He's just sitting in the other room. He goes, "Dad, help me fill out my W-4 form right now." So,
hey, I'm 28. I still call my dad for help on that, so I get that.
He's like, "You're single. You have no deductions. Just sign it."
That's awesome. He'll learn soon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Jon. I really appreciate you spending some time with me.
Not a problem at all.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.